Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Hi guys. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Thanks for tuning in today to the episode 8 of our Ramadan series. And I'm so glad to see all of you here again. Today we are so fortunate to have Brother Iskander to share his story with us, how he came to Islam. But before I begin, I just want to say that, today we have already crossed the halfway mark of Ramadan, past much further. Yeah, a few days after Ramadan. I mean, the half mark of Ramadan. So, way to go, guys. We are left with another half of the whole month to go. And I hope you guys are doing well with your fasting. And may Allah bless us for this moment, this day. Okay. So, Brother Ilyas will carry on to introduce Brother Iskander. Yep.
Yeah, so Assalamualaikum everyone. Actually, we got to know each other through an Instagram group. So, and if you guys notice, right, like the Iskander Chow that's always commenting on the YouTube comments in the live show, this is him over here. So we're very happy to have him, and I would like to know more about Brother Iskander. Like, I think for many of you that's watching, if without the title, right? If without the title of the video, I think a lot of you guys would think that he's Chinese. So I think it would be good for Brother Iskander to, introduce a little bit about himself, where he's from, how he's brought up, and where he's staying currently. So yeah, over to you, Brother Iskander.
All right. First of all, salam alaikum and walaikum salam to you guys. And Ramadan Mubarak. First of all, because it's a blessed month, so we can't forget the blessings and the celebrations, right? So yeah, I'm very happy to be here. Of course, I haven't done anything like this before, so this is a first. And yeah, you wanted to know how and what, right? So I don't know where to begin. Do you have any specific time frame you want me to cover, or should I just go?
Okay, maybe can you start with your age and what you're doing now, maybe your occupation, and then we go to how you came to know about Islam. Are you migrated to Holland, or are you originally from which country? Yeah.
All right. So okay, let's start with the basics. I trust most of the people here don't know me. So yeah, I'm 25 this year. Right now, I'm from the Netherlands, and I was born here. My occupation, I work for the government. Yeah, I work for the government basically. And I was born here, so that's why I'm Dutch. I actually wasn't born in China at all. I don't have a Chinese passport. I never paid Chinese taxes, even though I would, because they're a lot lower than Dutch taxes. So I'm 100% Dutch if you count it that way, right? Should I just go, or do you want to ask questions in between?
Yeah, just go.
Yeah.
Okay, good. So yeah, the reason the title you're seeing in the YouTube video, like Sino-Dutch, right? So what does this mean? Well, it means my parents are from China. They were born in China, and I was born in the Netherlands as a Chinese, but I'm actually not Chinese. So throughout my childhood, my parents were rather standoffish when it came to religion. My father said, honor the gods, plural, honor the gods, but don't, don't get yourself mixed up with the gods. So honor them, don't insult them, but also don't be obsessed. That was his advice. So basically, it was a very standoffish attitude. And later, when I got a bit older, we had a family friend, and the family friend was a continental Reformed Dutch lady. And this lady was a very, very devout Christian, and really old school, right? So when we ate pork, it was only pork and no fish. when we ate fish, only fish and nothing else. You know, like Leviticus style, even though there was pork. And this lady was a continental Reformed lady, so I learned a lot of Christian things from her, right? So, for example, the Our Father, in Dutch it's Onze Vader, die in de hemelen zijt, uw naam worden geheiligd, uw koninkrijk komen. You know, the Our Father. You know, I still know it to this day. So her influence was very deep in my upbringing. So that is where I get my Christian side from. And on top of that, I studied in a Roman Catholic primary school. So even though my parents weren't really religious, my upbringing was kind of Christian. But, and here comes the atheist part. The
Yeah, hang on.
Netherlands.
Sorry.
Yeah.
The Christian part. We're still at the Christian part. Hang on, I just have some question. What
Yeah, sure.
denomination of Christianity were you? Catholic, if I'm not wrong.
I wasn't really Christian. So I got a lot of knowledge from the Continental Reformed lady, which is, I think it's Calvinist or Lutheran. I'm not sure, one of the two. And the primary school I went to was Roman Catholic, but I was neither. You see?
Oh.
So I just got a lot of information, but I didn't really believe in either of them. So I was never baptized, is what I'm saying.
Oh, okay.
Oh. And
because,
when we spoke, right, the time you also mentioned that you have 2 certificates, like in Taoism and Buddhism or something. Like,
Yeah, that's later.
how do you get?
Yeah, that's later.
Both of them.
So if I go along the atheist, so can I first explain the atheist thing?
Yeah,
and
sure.
then I can get into the Taoist
Yeah.
thing. Okay. So I became gradually an atheist because Dutch culture is very secularized. Yeah. So as you get into primary school, as you get into middle school, it's very difficult for people in my part of Holland, which is the south of the Netherlands, Zuid-Holland, to remain Christian or remain, faithful, because it's normal to make fun of Jesus Christ. I know, astaghfirullah, but it's normal to make fun of God. It's normal to make fun of Jesus. So in school, it's kind of cool to be non-religious. So that's why it became gradually normal to be non-religious. Even though my middle school and high school was a Christian high school, it's it's very strange, the situation. So I got into Taoism and Buddhism because my father got into Taoism and Buddhism. So I mentioned earlier that my father is Chinese, that he didn't really care about religion. But my father, like me, had a religious journey. And when he first came to Holland, I think he was almost a Christian. But that's his story. I won't tell his story. But he got into Taoism, and he got me into Taoism as well. And the reason for that was because we wanted to learn martial arts. And my father is a martial artist, and I'm a martial artist, right? So when we went to Wudang is like a holy Taoist mountain in China. And I wanted to learn Wudang Tai Yi Wu Xing Quan, which is a Taoist martial arts style. And in order to get into learning that stuff, I had to become a Taoist disciple. So I had to register myself with the Taoist with the Taoist clergy. So then I became officially a Taoist, which is how I got the Taoist passport, as Elias asked. Right. But I never really believed because I didn't get it. I don't even know what Taoism is about. You understand?
Oh, so it's like a passport to learn the martial arts.
Yeah, basically, because also it's free access to Chinese temples. So
Is it hard to get the passport? Like, do you have to go through like a procedure like Shahada in Islam or something to get the passport?
Yes, it's Taoist baptism is interesting because I had to get a sifu. So I had to find a master with a lineage, and I had to pay money in a red envelope, very Chinese. I think it was quite a lot as well, like 5,000, 4,000, something like that. Yuan, Chinese money.
And
yeah, but then it's not just becoming a Taoist, then it's also becoming a disciple. That's different, I think. And then I had to go on my knees, right? And I had to give a tea to the master in order to it's not really worship, but you have to like really respect this person. So you have to go down on your knees. And of course, this is also like a faux pas, right? But yeah, that's how you get into the Buddhist sect, basically. Taoist sect, basically.
Wow, it's quite interesting. It's like getting like when Chinese people they get married, right? They also offer like the tea ceremony to
Exactly.
elderlies as a sign of respect.
It's a lot of bowing. Yeah.
So from there, is it like after Taoism, then you got into Islam?
No.
Oh, there's still something else in
Not for a
between.
long time. Taoism was 2011. That was, I think, 10 years ago. And then after Taoism, because I never really believed, I just got into it for the martial arts. It was a means to an end. So later, when I got back to Holland, my father, he also was making a journey. He got into Buddhism. And Buddhism, to me, made a lot more sense, right? Because Buddhism proposes that you should detach yourself from the worldly desires, from the worldly matters, right? You should erase your ego. And this sounds kind of like jihad al-nafs, right? Get rid of your ego. But Buddhism really, it kind of spoke to me because you have to train yourself to let go. And that was really, admirable. But then the question in me arose, why are we doing it, right? So yeah, cool, letting go, but why? And my father said, well, it's because you want to remove yourself from the cycle of reincarnation. And I was like, well, okay, but how do we prove there is reincarnation, right? And my father said, yeah, there's this theory and Buddha knows and whatever and blah, blah, blah. There's a lot of theory about how reincarnation is true and evidence and etc. But the question remains, Buddha never said he was God, and Buddha is not a god. So if he's not a god, then where do you get this information about the afterlife? How do you know if you are a human like the rest of us, right? This is my question. And I don't think people adequately answered that question for me. And that is one of the reasons why I kind of stepped away from Buddhism, because I didn't understand why Buddhists know all these things if there is no God, right? But my father is still a Buddhist, and I just went a different way. Back then I did get into like a Buddhist baptism. It's not a baptism, but it's like a ceremony. And this is a ceremony which also is kind of like the Taoist ceremony, but without money, no money involved. But you have to bow down to the teacher. You have to make like sajda to the Buddhist statues and the idols and everything. Yeah, it's really heavy. By the way, the idols, the statues, is something I don't understand either. So if Buddha's not a god, then why do you offer food? Why do you offer incense? Why do you offer money to the statue? It just makes no sense to me. But yeah. Okay. Do you want me to go on, or do you have questions?
Yeah. Just to ask a few questions. So, Buddhism is a bit more like they have a way of life. If you correct me if I'm wrong. Just that they don't mention a god in their scriptures. Is it? Oh, okay.
Yeah. Well, no, there are gods. If I understand, you have like samsara, which samsara is like reincarnation, and you have 6 paths of reincarnation. So you can be either a hungry ghost, a demon, an animal, a human, or something like a god, or a what was it, ashura, something like that. So a god in Buddhism, I think, I'm not sure about this, but I think it's a kind of like a being that controls supernatural powers, but it is not the creator of everything. It's just another living being which lives a lot longer, which has more powers, but is still a living being. So this cannot be God, because there are more of them. It is not eternal, right? It can die. So it's yes, there are gods, but it's not the God. It is not Allah. So this is different.
Yeah. So
just curious. Like, because I'm also Buddhist previously, I'm just curious. Like, do your family, like when they see a moth, right? a moth, like
Yes.
in the butterfly family or something? Like, do
Yes.
they say like is your like great grandparents that come to visit, or is it just in my country?
No, I think cultural Buddhists have this a lot, but my parents were raised in communist China, so they lost a lot of cultural Buddhism. My father
Oh,
refound Buddhism as kind of like a Buddhist convert, you see.
ah,
So I don't think I know a lot of this cultural Buddhism. So what you mentioned was interesting, of course. You said moth, your grandparents have come to visit you. So there was this Christian argument, a Jesuit argument against Buddhism, and they said, so if people reincarnate, how can you make sure that the cow in the field was not your mother in a previous life? How can you make sure? And if she was, if the cow in the field was your mother in a previous life, how can you make her work like that? That is not okay, right? And even worse, how can you make sure your wife was not your mother in a previous life?
oh,
Yeah. So you know how yeah, I found this really compelling, this argument, right? You cannot it, that's why reincarnation makes no sense for me, personally. Yeah.
Okay.
well,
Oh, so okay, okay, what's the main difference between Taoism and Buddhism? Is that
Yeah.
yeah?
These are very good philosophical questions. Yes. Now, I think Buddhism, it comes from the concept of everything is an illusion. Our world is an illusion because it is temporary. That is Buddhism, right? So the ultimate truth is nothing. So their God, so their idea of the thing that is unchangeable, the thing that is timeless, has no death and has no beginning, that is nothingness in terms of Buddhism. I think Taoism is very different, because Taoism says the ultimate beginning was one. There was one beginning. And from this one beginning became contrast, black and white, ice and fire, having and not having, so existing and not existing. And through change between this, through movement, became everything. And this is the Taiji, the very famous Taiji symbol, right?
Yeah.
The yin yang symbol. Um, so I think this is the main difference, right? Buddhism starts from one, and Buddhism starts from zero, and Taoism starts from one, and that I think that's the difference.
Oh,
wow, it's very
Right.
they're not very
interesting.
far. Yeah.
Yeah, but also in this way of life, Taoists are about following nature, following, doing as nature commands you to do. So, 顺其自然, right? 无为, right? Doing as your nature dictates you to do. And I think Buddhism is more like, no, you gotta train yourself. You gotta train yourself to be different, to get rid of your bestial nature. Don't be like a beast. That's more like Buddhism, I think. Yeah.
Uh,
Do you have to become a vegetarian like when you become a Buddhist, or is that
No,
not Buddhism?
no, yes, but no. I think there
Oh,
are different levels of rules for Buddhists. So a lot of Chinese Buddhists I know are not vegetarian, but they do not eat cow, right?
oh, yeah,
Especially
yeah.
on certain days like the 1st of the month and the 15th of the month. But monks have to be vegetarian because monks have a lot of rules, right? You cannot have intimate relations with the opposite at all. You cannot eat meat. You cannot eat even garlic, onion, and things like that because it makes you smell. Yeah.
mm.
So there are a lot of rules that apply for clergy and monks, do not apply for normal people.
I guess it's pretty much the same as there's some priests that they take on certain rules as when you become a priest, right? I think like
Yeah.
they can keep celibacy, or some can get married actually, or
Yes.
they have to be poor also, like based on what kind of priest they want to be.
Right.
Yeah.
But it differs in orders because in Japanese Buddhism, I think since the Meiji Restoration or something, monks can actually marry, and in Chinese Buddhism that is not allowed. So there's a difference between sects.
Oh, okay.
Mhm.
Difference in opinions. Okay.
Yeah. Different madhab, right?
Yeah, what's up? All right. So now come to the juicy part.
Yes.
How from there to Islam?
Yeah. This is the best part. It's the best part. So I mentioned earlier before how I was Christian when I was, well, not really Christian, but I had a lot of Christian upbringing as a child, right?
Yeah.
So I remember one time my mother got home late or something. She was working. I was home alone, right? And I remember praying to God. I remember praying to God, So that was, I think, the first spark, because sometimes when you think things are hopeless, when you have nobody to turn to, you can ask nobody for help. That is when people turn to God, when you need something. And this kind of tendency I had in me from a very small age. I was, I think, 7 or something. So I think this was the first conscious attempt I made to connect with God. And back then, this was the Christian God, but I never believed that Jesus was a God. Um, so in a sense, I was praying to the Father and not the Son or the Spirit. Okay.
But how,
So
how come you didn't believe Jesus was God then?
because
I
it
mean,
didn't
like,
make sense to me. It
oh,
just
okay.
didn't make sense to me. How can you kill God? Come on. Come on. How does this make sense? How can God be born from a woman? How does this make sense? Seriously. So yeah, I was just praying to the Father, and also I think maybe some Jehovah Witnesses got to me or something, because Jehovah's Witnesses also don't believe that Jesus is the Son of God, right? And I had this storybook as a child, which was from the Jehovah's Witnesses. So maybe that was the reason, but I don't know. So later, I became more and more atheist. I said, no, you cannot rationally define God. God is a fairy tale, blah blah blah, astaghfirullah. I know I shouldn't say these things, but that is what I believed back then. And when the Buddhism came, it became compounded, because Buddhism says, you know, absolute nothingness. That is the truth, and there's no God. So how did I get from that point to Islam? And that is a really interesting question. I always was fascinated with religions, right? I think it is very interesting to see how people think and how people act. And it's not so clear cut as, okay, one day I was a Buddhist and one day I was not, right? As a child, I had Muslim friends, and my best friend was actually a Moroccan Chinese guy, which, is a combination you don't see very often. His father was Sunni Moroccan, his mother was Cantonese Chinese. And his father was so strict. 5 prayers, wudu before prayers. Everything done to the teeth. But yeah, it's very strict. So this was my first contact with Islam, but I didn't want to do anything with it. And my friend, he didn't eat pork because he said, yeah, pork is smelly, it's not good. And even in my video, which I made with in response to Ilyas, I said this before, that I didn't want to eat pork because my friend didn't want to eat pork. So this was the first time I was getting into contact with Islam. But after Buddhism, so this is, I think, maybe after 2015, so really recent, I started thinking Buddhism doesn't really make sense. So what does make sense, And I started getting into this atheist route, really atheist, like uh, like apostate prophet kind of atheist. You know this guy, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, Sargon of Akkad, all those YouTubers who are really against religion, against God, against everything. I was like, yeah, religion is for stupid, for fools, blah blah blah.
Quick
Really,
question.
yes.
I know this is a common question that atheist people like to pose, and that is, can God create a rock that he can't move? Is that common? A lot of atheists.
Yes. This is a very common question, and I was actually asking Christians this question. I was like, checkmate.
What's your
But
answer to
it's
that?
an invalid question. It's totally invalid. How can you? It, it just doesn't make sense. How can you ask something that doesn't make sense, right? So yeah, but it's like a gotcha question. I'm like, you can't answer it. So God is not omnipotent or something. But yeah, I had a few more of these questions, like Is there free will? And what happened? Why did God harden Pharaoh's heart? Those kinds of questions, like gotcha questions to the Christian. But actually, one major change happened. I was sitting at university and I was studying English at the time. And two guys came up to me and they were Christian. And they asked me, can I have an interview with you? And I said, sure, why not? What's it about? And they said, we want to interview you about God. We want to ask questions about God. What is God to you? And I said, oh, I'm a hardcore atheist. I want to answer this question. I want to break their logic. I want to destroy them, very evil thoughts. And these guys, they sat down, very, very polite guys, these Christians. They said to me, okay, so what is God to you? And I said, I think it's like the universe. God is the universe, right? God and the universe are one. It's like a cosmic kind of energy, but I don't think this God has a will or anything. It's really weird stuff. And then they said, okay, but do you believe there is good and right, or good and bad? Do you believe there is morals? And I said, yeah, there might be some morals, the cosmos, karma. I said, yeah, there might be karma. If you do bad things, bad things will happen back to you, And they said, and then they kept asking questions, kept asking. And at the end, I was like, my own thoughts are totally inconsistent. I totally don't know what I'm talking about. That was my conclusion at the end. And that's what started me thinking, right? They said, okay, if God was here, what would you say to him? If what is your ideal God? Those kinds of questions, really deep. And after that conversation, I was like, you know what? I'm not an atheist. I'm totally confused, and I've got to study more. And as I studied more, I came to my mentor, and my mentor is a man from Suriname. He's part African, he's part Arawak, so part native Surinamese and part native African, and he's actually a Hebrew Israelite. So he believes in that the Jewish people, those we see in Israel right now, that those are fake Jewish people. He believes that the original Israelites, the original Hebrews, were driven away into Africa, and this kind of thought. I won't comment on this further, but he was like the first spark that made me think about Christianity, about Islam, about Judaism, right? So I asked him about the history of the world, and he explained to me certain kinds of things, but I could only nod. I could only, okay, yeah, sure, okay. Oh, so it's like that. So it's like, but I want to have a normal conversation with him, with knowledge from my side. I want to contribute. So I said, you know what? I'm going to study the Holy Scriptures. And I'm going to study Islam first. Why? Because I had a Quran at home. Yeah, just like that. The reason I had the Quran at home was because during high school, there was a rule that we had to read 5 minutes each class, every class, because our reading level was, Dutch reading level was really bad. So we had to read, Iqra, read. So this is what our school said to us. And I said, let's get a Quran because it's funny, because, it's shocking to my classmates, and that is why I bought a Quran. But not knowing that it would be the spark for me years later to study the Quran, so that I could have a conversation with my mentor. And as I studied, and as I looked into the Quran, I found more and more truth. I found more and more things that were applicable, that made sense, that didn't make sense to me before, right? I mentioned before how Jesus being God didn't make sense, and the Quran said, okay, Jesus isn't God. I'm like, wow, this is what I thought all along. And there was just something about the beautiful language, about the structure of the chapters, that made it so much more divine and so much more beautiful than what I thought the Bible was. because the Bible reads pretty clearly like a story. It has a logical structure. Start with Genesis, Exodus. It reads more classically like a story, and everything made sense. But when I read the Quran, this order, it starts with Fatiha, then Al-Baqarah. There's no clear story, and I was like, I didn't get it at first, but it grew on me. It grew on me. Yeah. So, yeah, this is how I first got into Islam, but there are more reasons, of course. Do you want me to get into those reasons, or?
Yeah. I mean,
go ahead.
Okay. It's a long story, but I hope you have time.
yes.
Yeah. So another reason is very secular, and this is a different reason, right? Totally from a different perspective, not religious at all. But as a Chinese, as an immigrant living in the Netherlands, you feel weak because your group is small and you are being bullied. Actually, it's very common for Chinese people here to be bullied because of being Chinese. Very common. And actually, that's anywhere the case, right? That's the case anywhere. But what I saw was that Turkish people, Moroccan people, seem to have a very strong identity. And I was wondering why. Because the Chinese, normally Asians, we have high earnings, we become doctors, we become lawyers, and basically we are quite well off. Not always, of course, we have a lot of poverty as well, but this is what I thought back then. So like, if we are so good off, if we are so well off, if we have this money, this buying power, this social power, why is our communal sense, why is our sense of identity so much weaker than Turkish and Moroccans? Why, if we have more worldly power, if we have more money, do we worship white people? Do we want to be white more than any other group? That's what I was thinking. But actually, later I found out that other groups have the same problems, but I didn't know that back then. So I was like, this is weird. So what do the Moroccans and Turkish have that the Chinese don't have? And the question or the answer was very quickly answered. They have Islam. They have Islam. So even though some of them might be recent immigrants, they are vilified in the media, called terrorists, called wife beaters, called every name under the heaven every day. They still remain proud of who they are, right? They are called Muhammad. They are called Ahmed. They are called I don't know, Ilyas. They're called Firdaus. But we, Chinese people, are called James, Kevin, Alex. My original name is Alex, which is why I'm Iskander. They are called all these Western names. So why can the Muslims hold on to their own identity, and why can we not? And this is when I realized it must be Islam. It must be Islam. So when I looked into Islam, it was partially with the reason for becoming a better, more proud, stronger Chinese person. And these are secular reasons. But as I said, as I read into the Quran, it became more and more apparent to me that this wasn't just a secular book. This wasn't just a method for becoming a better Chinese or for strengthening tribalism or nationalism. No, it's far bigger than that. It transcends nationalism. The fact that we become proud of our identities, that we can remain strong in our feet, that we don't white worship, that we don't worship people, is just a side effect, right? A side effect of knowing the truth, a side effect of knowing Allah. And, and that was because I started reading the Quran. So really, the answer to your question is, how did you get into Islam? Well, it's because I read the Quran.
Oh. Then from then on, after you read the Quran, right? Like,
yeah.
How do I phrase this? Was there, other than like the part where you mentioned that it says that Jesus is not God, that stood out to you? Are there any other parts that stood out to you in the Quran?
Yes, one time, and this was really weird. And it's kind of reminiscent of Firdaus's story. I had vowed not to drink alcohol because I didn't want to drink anymore, uh, and that was because um, I had bad experiences drinking before. I did some embarrassing things, very close to zina, not good, And I had vowed never to drink anymore. And then I went to a party with my boss, and because it's respect in Chinese culture to drink to your boss, right? To drink with your boss. And then I drank that night, and I came home and I was like, oh, I drank again. This is a failure. So then I was like, you know what? I'm gonna just open the Quran and see what it says. So I opened the Quran, bam, and it landed on disassociate ye with unbelievers. I was like, well, this was the solution, right? For not drinking, because I was drinking again because my boss, he wasn't a Muslim or anything. So I was drinking again because I was in their company. So I opened and it says disassociate you with unbelievers. So that was the solution. That was totally the solution. So I was like, wow, this this is intervention. So that was one. But also there are so many things, but also the fact that it dispelled so many myths I had, so many wrong ideas I had about Islam. So I thought Islam was really violent, and beforehand, and that it didn't allow any other religion. But when you read, like, for example, Al Kafirun, you're like, oh no, Islam isn't like that at all. It's like, you know, lakum dinukum waliya din. It's not like I'm gonna kill you if you don't believe in me. They often cite the sword verse, but then they take it out of context. So when I read the Quran, I realized that how many lies about Islam are told every day, and that is also a big reason why I started loving the Quran. Does that answer your question, or?
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's like the more people say no, the more you find out about it, and the more it makes more sense to you.
Yeah, you're like, wait, you said this, but actually it's like this, and it makes sense.
Yeah.
So yeah, exactly. And yeah.
So over in Holland, what's the situation like, in the sense like, is the media there really 24/7, out to persecute Muslims with like bad news?
I trust you all know one very famous Dutch person, right? Geert Wilders.
Yeah, I think I've
The
seen
man with
movies.
the blonde hair.
No,
He's
who's
very
that?
anti-Islam. But yeah, I thought everybody knew him. But there is a political party in the Netherlands. It's called the PVV, and they're very against Islam. They want Islam out of the country. There was a rally one time, and this guy, Geert Wilders, he said, "Do you want more or less Moroccans?" And the rally said, "Less Moroccans, less Moroccans." Very, very bad. Yeah, so a while ago, let's see, this man, he made a film. It's called Fitna, and it depicted the Prophet, peace be upon him, in cartoon and with a bomb on his head or something, and really anti-Islam. And then there were many incidents with people who call themselves Muslim with terrorist attacks, right? They shoot people, or they stab people, and this gave Islam a really bad name, right? And then Dutch media kind of took this and ran with it. So there's a lot of anti-Islam stuff, and even to this day, there is a burqa ban, so no burqa, but mandatory face covering because of COVID. And also there were some Salafi people who said, I don't want to shake hands with women, because I don't want to, I want to stay away from zina. I want to be respectful to the women, etc. And then our prime minister, Mark Rutte, he said, no, in Dutch, in Holland, it is normal to shake hands. We shake hands. That is the Dutch way, right? And then years later, COVID came, and now we are not allowed to shake hands.
God intervention.
I don't know. Yeah, they say that. We shouldn't say that, but it's kind of ironic. I don't think it's, you can say like, oh, it is God's intervention, but it's kind of ironic, right?
Yeah.
So yeah, no burqa, but now you have to wear face mask. No handshake. You must shake hands, but now you cannot shake hands. So very ironic, very ironic. So you can see in Holland there is a lot of debate, and here most mosques cannot do the adhan, right? There was a huge debate in Amsterdam with the Blue Mosque, Blauwe Moskee. They wanted to do the adhan, but they didn't allow it. But because it's in the Dutch constitution that it should be allowed, it got approved anyway. So this was a big victory, right? So it's a battle. It's a battle, especially with France so close to us. It's a battle. Yeah.
Oh, also just curious, right? Like when you started, like reading about the Quran, right? Like, can you give us a context of the timeline? Like, how long ago was it?
So I started reading the Quran in high school, which was, let's see, 2012, 2013, 14, something like that. Then I stopped. I put it in a shelf for a while, and I started reading again, maybe in 2018, 19, something like that. Yeah.
Oh, then how long since the 2018 or 19, right, till you became like a Muslim? And do you guys have to like register yourself as a Muslim or something over there in Dutch?
Of course, whether you're Muslim or not, it's all up to Allah, and yourself. But you can register in a mosque, and you can get a certificate. And I didn't really register, but I did take the Shahada in a mosque. And this was in 2000. Wait, when was this? 2020 or 19? No, it was 20. It was the beginning of 2020. But before Ramadan, because this is my second Ramadan. So I don't know, it went really fast.
That's the same as me. Like I also just before Ramadan last year.
Yeah. Oh, similar timeline. But I remember because I had an eye surgery in my left eye. And back then I was already deep into the Islam stuff. And this was, I think, around January or February of 2020. And I had to undergo a surgery, buckle surgery, because it was a retinal detachment. So they had to operate on my eye, otherwise I would go blind in this eye. Because of boxing, by the way, I got hit on my left eye too much.
Oh.
My guard is too low, so they hit me here. So when I underwent surgery, my doctor was a Muslim, and actually he didn't say anything. But before I went under, I said, you know what? Before I go under, let's hope this goes right. I said Allahu Akbar, and then I went under narcosis. This was the last thing I said before I went to sleep, right? And when I woke up, I was like, what did I do? I said Allahu Akbar. I said I was a Muslim. So am I not already a Muslim, right? I said these things. Am I not true to myself? And then I was like, you know what? Let's make it official. I said these things. I already believe in it. So let's just go to the mosque. Let's find a brother. Let's take the Shahada, and let's make it official. And that's when I made a appointment with a friend who wanted to see what a mosque was like. And I was like, I don't know. I just want to go. And he said, yeah, I can't go now, whatever. And so I went anyway. And halfway through, my telephone, I didn't know where it was. My telephone had 20% battery. And I was navigating towards the mosque. I was walking. And then my telephone suddenly went out. And I couldn't see the map anymore. And I was like, is this a sign that I should not go to the mosque? Or is this a sign that Shaitan is not wanting me to go to the mosque? Which one is it? So I was like, you know what? I made a plan. I want to go to the mosque. I'm going to go anyway. So I went. I had a conversation with the brothers there, and they sat me down, and they're like, brother, I think you're already convinced. It sounds like you're already convinced. Do you want to take the Shahada? And I said, yeah, why not? And that's when I said, La ilaha illallah. That's how that happened.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, because reason why I asked about Holland and the situation there is because I have some Dutch friend before, quite
Yeah.
close. We used to study in Australia together, but I think after they heard that I became Muslim, they just dropped connection.
So
So it's like not even answering emails or
yeah.
Facebook messaging. Yeah. Yeah, so that's what happens.
Well, the difference between you and I is I don't have any friends. So no, just kidding. Many of my friends don't really. So the friends who are not close to me, they don't know I converted. I didn't feel the need to tell them. Colleagues know I converted. Parents know I converted. Close friends know I converted, and I think it's fine. People are generally very accepting here, if you're in the right environment. So if I was like in the Christian Reformed environment, I would have no friends now, zero friends. You would be an outcast, right? They would think you have gone crazy. Oh, he wants to beat women now. He wants to go kill people now. People think of those things. But I do have to say that the first time I told two of my high school friends, I was like, "Yeah, I'm Muslim now." They said like, "Nah, you're taking the piss. You're the most atheist guy I know." Yeah, good joke, so I don't think they still believe me now. It's very funny.
Oh, what your parents? What were the reaction?
I didn't want to tell my dad for the longest time because I was afraid of what my dad might say. But I did tell my mother because, okay, my dad is in China right now. He's a monk, actually. He's a Buddhist monk. I didn't tell you guys, but he's a Buddhist monk. So he's really deep into the Buddhism, right? So I did tell my mom because my mom has to see me pray every day. So, she knew. And at first she was like, whatever, your religion is your business. And I was like, okay, cool. خلاص, done. But later she did have a bit of trouble. She was like, okay, but you can't eat pork. Oh, okay, that's annoying. Okay, but you can't marry outside of your religion. Okay, that's annoying. You can't do this, you can't do that. Why do you have these restrictions? You can't eat. That's the biggest problem. She always wants to feed me. And I fast on sometimes on Tuesdays, sometimes on Thursdays, and during Ramadan we fast, of course. She was like, "Yeah, you will become ill, you will become sick. I don't like it, this kind of thing." Because a mother always wants the best for her child, right? So I understand, but she's still accepting. And I try to talk with her about Islam sometimes, but she's like, "Yeah, I'll never become Muslim." She says things like this. So, inshallah, she will be guided by Allah, but it's not up to me, of course.
Inshallah, may she be given hidayah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And so when I told my dad, so the reason I didn't want to tell him, because I tried to tell him once. I said, I'm following this preacher called Muhammad Abdullahi. Actually, he's almost blind in one eye, so he was a really inspiration for me because my eye was like that. And I saw how happy this man was and how devout he was. So I was like, if I can reach that, I would be happy. So I told my dad about this man, and I said, I follow this Islamic preacher, and he's really into Islam, and I really like it, and he's really peaceful. And my dad said, do you want to become Muslim or something? Don't become Muslim. Whatever you do, don't become Muslim. It's better to become an atheist than to become a Muslim. And I was like, you know what? Let's not tell him.
That's what
let's wait. So I think 1 year later, I finally told him. I said, "You know what, Dad? I'm actually a Muslim. I just came out with it. I'm a Muslim." And he said, "Okay, yeah, you're free to believe what you want, but why?" That was his question. And I said, "You know what? I just think it's the truth. Yeah, it gives me direction, it gives me purpose, and I think it's the truth." And he was like, "But why do you think it's the truth?" He said, how can you believe in a religion that excludes others, And I quoted Surah Al-Kafirun to him. I said, I'm not saying you have to convert. I still respect you guys for your Buddhism, whatever you believe in. And he said, but the way I hear it, this is what my father said. Your religion distinguishes between me and you, And he said that is dangerous. He said that is dangerous thinking. He said the moment you believe there is me and you, there will be conflict. There's us and them. There will be conflict. He said any religion like that cannot be a good religion. He said to me. And I said, but you do believe there is good and right? If there's no me and you, then a villain is also me, and that so there has to be some kind of good and right. And if you are the followers of good, then you must be good. If you are the followers of bad, then you must not be of us, right? So there must be this is what I think, right? There must be a split between good and bad. He is more like relative. He's like, okay, good to me is bad to you, or bad to me is good to you. It's more relative. And I think this relativism is really inclusive, but I don't think it's the truth. Do you understand what I mean?
Guidance. It lacks guidance. It's
Sorry?
just like it lacks guidance. Like
right. Everything is right.
Everything is great.
That's weird. I don't get that. So there should be right and there should be wrong, and this is what I still believe, of course. But my father doesn't see it that way. He believes there is the truth. He believes that you should see things as they are without adding value judgments to them. So this is the philosophical split between me, my father, and him. So he's trying to convince me not to be. He's being respectful. He's saying, okay, you know what? I'm prepared. I'm willing to accept Islam if you come with convincing arguments. And I'm like, okay, I'm trying to convince you, but he says my arguments are not convincing, so we're at an impasse. So yeah, still very accepting, but not agreeing, which is fine.
Yeah, I think soon once you study more, right? Yeah, I think is there a motivation to study more about Islam to convince your dad?
Exactly. Which is why I started to look into more theory, more theology, just to learn more.
Wow. Wow. So it has been about 1 year, yeah? 1 year plus.
Yeah.
Since you became a Muslim. Then, like, just curious, like, I think a lot of people are also curious, also, like, when they hear river stories, like, have your life changed for the better in the past year?
Yeah. I used to be quite angry. I used to be very easily angered, very snappy, especially toward my mother, because due to a few things, I don't want to reveal too much because it's private information, of course, and don't want to backbite or anything. But there are some things I wasn't too happy about, and because of that, I resented some of the things that she did. So I was very snappy. I wanted to get revenge or vengeance, very weird. But this is why I was very bad to my mother, actually. Yeah, I was at home. Yeah, I did what I had to do, but I was very irritable. And after coming to Islam, Jannah is beneath the feet of your mother. Learning about, that mother is on the first, second, and third place. Learning that, the murderer who came to the Prophet, peace be upon him, who asked, what can I do to earn the favor of Allah? And he asked, is your mother still alive? And he said, yes, then go take care of your mother. Hadiths like that. It really made me rethink my relationship between me and my mother, how you should treat your mother. And of course, Chinese culture has this too, right? Filial piety. You should treat your mother well. But somehow it never got through to me. And only through Islam was I able to accept the fact that I should be good to my mother. So, you should really ask my mother, not me. But I think that I became a lot better to my mother after I accepted Islam. But actually, she is the best judge of this, of course.
Yeah, I mean, I think for most of us reverts, what really makes us truly desire is our loved ones to be Muslim. I
Yeah.
think that's our first desire when we become Muslim. It's
Yeah.
not like to make the whole world Muslim or something. It's just like if only those we love could see how we see things in life. Like that's what we want. I
Yeah, and I
think
think it's so beautiful too, right? Because it made me a better person. So I hope it makes people around me a better person, and I hope they can all earn the favor of Allah and go to Jannah, and that we all, I don't want them to suffer in Jahannam. But yeah, if
yeah.
they don't want to accept, yeah.
So that's the difference, I guess, between us reverts and born Muslim. I think born Muslim, they have parents that are technically practicing the faith already. So
Yeah,
yeah, it kind of they are on a different part of the map, I guess.
yeah,
Working towards Jannah.
yeah, exactly. It's a reverse, right? And it's
Yeah.
especially difficult because Chinese parents are very authoritative, right? If you try to teach them something, they'll be like, "You are trying to teach me," you know. I changed your diaper. You try to teach me, they get the slipper. You try to teach me. But
Yeah.
but it's not me teaching. It's Allah using me to try to get the message right. It's not me teaching. But okay. And that's actually a very important point. I mentioned that Chinese culture, Confucianism, Taoism, Buddhism, they all have good things, right? Don't lie, be loyal, be good to your parents, give in charity. Uh, all these things are very good. But the question I always had was why? Why should I be good? What is the reason I should follow these rules and these virtues? And I think Chinese culture doesn't make that very clear because Confucianism doesn't talk about the afterlife. It doesn't talk about God. It talks about how to best run a country and how to be a good man. But being good man, in order to be a good man, is circular reasoning. I don't understand why I have to be a good man, right? So, and Islam gave me a reason. It gave me the original cause why I have to be a good man, and then the desire to become a good man follows. But if you're like a Confucianist and you say you have to be a good son, why? Because you have to be a good son. It doesn't make sense to me why I have to be a good son.
It's like
You get it?
you have to be a good son because society wants you to be a good son.
Right, and that's
Yeah.
not good reasoning for me.
Yeah.
Yeah, right. Why should I focus my life on that while I can be an asshole, part of my language, but while I can be a bad person and make a lot of money, I can do that as well. Or why do I have to be a good son? And then Islam says, no, even if you make a lot of money, but you're a bad son, you're a bad person, you're gonna suffer. It's not gonna be good. So that make me really clear for me. Okay, I should be a good person, and not because society wants me to, not because I earn money that way, not because people like me more, and because God wants me to. And when you realize that, even if society hates you, even if people want to, persecute you for your religion, who cares? As long as God loves me.
Yeah. Wow. This is awesome, man. Today sharing is one of
Yeah,
the few good ones also. Wow. Thanks.
thanks. No problem.
So do you have any advice for people who are like, sitting on the fence, maybe trying to find out about Islam, or maybe still an atheist and they're trying to understand more about life, I guess. Yeah.
My advice: read. It's the first revelation, man. Read. like your Lord commands you to just read, and I mean read the Quran, of course, but also uh, read philosophy, read uh, Islamic philosophy, read. Don't read like garbage. don't read like filthy
Internet.
material, but read good stuff. Feed your mind, and read. That's really what I want to tell people. Reading makes you so much richer in thinking, and you know just read.
Yes. Awesome.
Right.
Elias, anything else you would like to ask Brother Iskander?
Um, No, I don't think I have any more questions for now. I think I have a lot more that is not really related to today's topic, but maybe in the future discussion, we can talk about something else. But I think so far, I think today's session discussion was like really good. Like I also understand a lot about like Taoism and Buddhism itself.
Yeah.
And I think the audience just now when I saw some comments, right, like like they also said that you gave a really good explanation on Buddhism.
Taoism.
Correct.
Thanks. I didn't check the comments, so I'll check them in a moment. But thank you, guys.
I think these comments are only up on live. Yeah, I think post live you won't see them already. I can't find some, but I don't mind going through some of them just to have a look at.
Maybe that's a good idea.
Most of them is like Salam Ramadan, Singaporean brothers and sisters. They're wishing us Assalamualaikum and also Ramadan Kareem. Yeah. I love watching Usia dramas. This is by Romogzan.
Yeah, going to Wudang, and I actually studied Kung Fu in 2 Taoist mountains. One is Qingcheng and one in Wudang, and pretty cool to study Kung Fu there. But yeah, there's a lot of shit going on.
This one, you look much older on the thumbnail picture.
Yeah, it's because the glasses and the kufi. I know.
Yeah. They left the topic tonight. They say it's an interesting topic. Another one who says about Buddhism is about doing it themselves and becoming liberated without the grace of God.
Right, exactly. And becoming Buddha, right? Buddha is not God; it's a state of enlightenment. And you want to, because Buddha says life is suffering, and this is because of reincarnation, right? So if you infinitely reincarnate, you will at one point have a very bad life. You will be a dog, you will be a mosquito, or you will be in hell, right? Buddhists also believe in hell. But so if life is suffering, you have to remove yourself from life. And normally you should say, okay, then just commit suicide. But because of reincarnation, that doesn't work, right? So if you commit suicide, you just come back. So how do you permanently erase yourself from existence? This is the state of Nirvana, right? Nirvana is when you don't exist anymore. So when you exit samsara, which is the cycle of reincarnation, you go into Nirvana, and then you are liberated. And this liberation just means not existing anymore, which is kind of depressing if you think about it.
It sounds like out of the Matrix.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
I couldn't accept it.
It's hard work, right? To get there. Like I saw like videos, like documentary, like the monks, they have to like before they die or something, like they have to sit in the place and meditate.
Yeah.
Like for without food and drink for like many days until they pass away, and then like there's bodies of some of the monks still around, like, and they say that they are alive somehow. There's signs of life inside the body.
I know what you mean. They sit there and they meditate, and then they pass away like that, and their body doesn't go off, something like that. But the reason is because the way you erase yourself from existence is by erasing 3 bestial sins, 3 cardinal sins that every person has. In Chinese, this is like tan, cheng, and chi. And these are, one is greed, like gluttony, greed, wanting things. One is like anger. So if you give into anger easily, something like that. And the other one is like, if you are kind of like obsessed or something. Like three things. If you get rid of these 3 things, then you leave samsara. But it is so difficult to get rid of these things that basically nobody has achieved it except for Buddha and some bodhisattva maybe. Yeah.
Wow. Yeah.
Buddhism. Different.
Another one. COVID-19 has a lot of hikmah. Okay. You can make friendship with Indonesians. So many Indonesians in Netherlands.
Many Indonesians. And actually, the Netherlands used to be the biggest Muslim country in the world because it owned Indonesia.
Oh, yeah, the
Yeah.
Dutch, right? They colonized
Yeah.
Indonesia.
Exactly.
Oh.
But yeah, I think this Buddhism is it has an interesting aspect on life, but if you look at the practice, it doesn't match up, I think, with the theory, because Buddha said, "I am not a god, but people pray to his statue." Buddha said, "Let go of the worldly, but people go pray for money, go pray for wealth, go pray for children." Buddha said, let go of anger, let go of hate, let go of this, but people don't seem to follow it. So it's just a very big split between practice and theory. And I think this split is not so big in Islam, even though, of course, not all Muslims follow Islam like it should be done. But the split is less big, right? At least you don't see blatant idol worship in Islam. Sometimes there is, but in Buddhism, it's not so clear for me.
Okay, we have one. I think it's in Dutch. Maybe
Nein,
you
das
can
ist Deutsch. Ja, ich spreche kein Deutsch, Entschuldigung, aber ja, guten Nacht. It's German, but whatever.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Sorry. Oh, okay. I'm from the Netherlands, Muslim living in the UK.
Hoi. Goedemiddag. Goedemiddag. It's midday here, so.
Oh. All right. I think that's all the comments that most of them is Alhamdulillah and Allahu Akbar and
Allahu Akbar.
Allahu Akbar. Oh, New York with Dutch found by Dutch Muslim. Okay. Wow.
Yes, it was. Did you know?
Mhm.
Oh, I
Do you want
didn't
to hear
know.
the story, or don't we have time?
Yeah, I mean, yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, there was a Dutch pirate, of course, the Dutch and pirates, right? So he was raiding in the Mediterranean Sea, and he was hired by a Berber king, I think, on North Africa. And he said he captured him. The king captured him, and he said, "You want to work for me?" And the guy said, "Sure. What do I have to do?" I said, "You have to convert to Islam." And the guy said, "Okay, I convert." So then he converted to Islam. He had a Muslim concubine or a wife, and he made a son. And that son became an explorer, and he worked for the Dutch government, I think, or something. And he went to America, and he founded New York. He bought the land there, but he was a Muslim. Very interesting.
Mm.
Wow.
That's
Is
something
it still
new.
owned by is it still owned by him? No, right?
No, because the Dutch, they sold New York. They traded New York for Suriname. So New York
Oh.
became English and Suriname became Dutch because Suriname used to be English.
Oh. Wow.
Yeah.
Some interesting history lesson.
Yeah, New York used to be called New Amsterdam, actually.
Oh.
I didn't know that. Okay.
And actually, Brooklyn is Breukelen in Netherlands, and Harlem is Haarlem in Netherlands. These are all Dutch cities. And Queens, Queens is English though.
Yeah. All right. So
Right.
thank you guys for tuning in for tonight's session, tonight's Ramadan series. And once again, thank you, Brother Iskander. Appreciate the sharing that you gave us. We hope you can still keep in touch with us. And yeah, feel free to chat us on IG, Instagram, or anything. Yeah. And inshallah, may your parents be granted hidayah and for you to have a smooth journey to Jannah Firdaus as well.
Inshallah. Thank you.
Is there a last ayat or an ayat from the Quran that you like to share that is close to your heart?
I think I mentioned it twice this evening, but the Surah Al-Kafirun. Sure, can I do it?
Yeah, of course. Go ahead. Yeah, you go ahead.
بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم قل يا أيها الكافرون ولا أعبد ما تعبدون ولا أنتم عبدون ما أعبد ولا أنا عبد ما عبدتم ولا أنتم عبدون ما أعبد لكم دينكم ولي دين.
And in translation in English?
Oh, I don't know.
Wait, let me go. I also don't know. I can't memorize the English, but I can Memorize the Arabic only.
It's something like we worship. I do not worship what you worship. We do not worship what I worship.
It says here, say, O disbelievers, kulia ayuhan kafirun, ayuhal kafirun, la a'budu ma ta'budun. I do not worship what you worship. Wala antum abiduna ma a'bud. Nor are you worshippers of what I worship. Wala antum abiduna ma a'bud. Nor will I be a worshipper of what you worship. Wala antum abiduna ma a'bud. Nor will you be worshippers. So it's just repeating itself, right? We worshippers of what I worship. Lakum dinukum waliyadin. For you is your religion, and for me is mine.
Yeah, I think this is important for us, right?
Yeah.
As referts, that we are not very aggressive at all. So
yeah. Yeah, so thanks so much again, Brother Iskander, and Brother Ilyas, you can end with Tasbih Kafara and Suratul Asr.
Yeah. Anyways, I also want to say thanks again. I hope that the viewers watching this enjoyed this as much as we do. I think we really enjoyed today's session. So I'll end it off here. Subhanakallahumma wa bihamdika asyhadu an la ilaha illa anta astaghfiruka wa atubu ilaik. A'udzu billahi minasyaitonir rajim. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Wal 'asr innal insana lafi khusr illa alladhina amanu 'amilus solihat wattawassaw bil haqqi wattawassaw bis sabr.
Amen. Thank you so much again, Brother Iskander, and everyone for tuning in. See you again in the next series in 2 days' time, inshallah. Take care and Ramadan Mubarak. Assalamualaikum.
Waalaikumsalam. Waalaikumsalam. Assalamualaikum.